What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, listen. There was a story that dropped last week that I didn't do because there wasn't enough information with it, and I didn't want to do it just for the shock value, but more information has come out. And the story I'm talking about comes out of Alexandria, Virginia, and it happened last Friday when a man whose name is Sean Stephen Harris jumped out of a 15-story apartment window when the FBI knocked on his door to serve him an arrest warrant. Now, more information has come out about this, and I'll let this video roll to show you, why this guy did what he did. Now, people do crazy stuff out here. They do. And feel sometimes like they won't get brought to justice when committing crimes against people. But when somebody jumps out of a window, you say to yourself, when the police come and it's 15 stories, knowing they ain't going to get away, they just going to go to their sudden doom. It must have been something really serious. Take a look at this and they'll give you all the answers you need. Check it.
Man dead after jumping from the 15th floor of a high-rise in Northern Virginia. Officials say that it happened after FBI agents tried to serve him an arrest warrant. It happened on King Street about 6 o'clock this morning. The man died at the scene. News 4's Drew Wilder has the latest on the investigation.
Earlier this morning, News 4 spoke off camera with a guy who says he was asleep this morning in his apartment on the 14th floor of this high-rise on King Street in Alexandria. He says he was woken up by hearing a bunch of banging on what sounded like the unit above him. He heard FBI, FBI. Then he heard footsteps running across his ceiling, and then he heard someone shout, "No, don't." He says he went to his balcony. He looked out, looked down, saw a man on the ground 14 stories below. Then he says looked up, and he says on the 15th floor balcony he saw FBI agents peering down, looking at a man who FBI says had just jumped off of a balcony. FBI agents told us earlier this morning that they came to this apartment building at about 6:30 this morning to serve an arrest warrant. They say they found the subject inside the 15th-story apartment building, and when they approached that subject, they say he took off running, jumped off the balcony, and when he made contact with the ground, he was killed. As of right now, they still have not released the name of the person they were serving that arrest warrant on. They say first they need to notify next of kin, and then the Alexandria Police Department will conduct a death investigation before the name is released. As for what that subject was being arrested for, the FBI says the arrest warrant is under seal and they cannot disclose that information right now. As you can see, traffic has opened back up on King Street, but this investigation will continue at least for the next couple of days. Reporting in Alexandria, Drew Wilder, News 4.
Following some breaking news, just 2 hours ago, we learned new details about the man who died after he jumped off a 15th-story balcony in Alexandria to escape FBI agents last Friday.
Officials have now identified that man as Sean Stephen Harris. Our Jess Arnold has been taking a closer look at this indictment and joins us now with those details. Jess, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I've spent the last couple of hours reading through these 16 pages of this indictment for Sean Stephen Harris. Now, in terms of the charges, we're looking at 7 counts of wire fraud, 1 of false impersonation of a officer and employee of the United States. Now, he did claim to work for the CIA, the FBI, Treasury, State, Defense, Intelligence, all of these agencies when he was running these fraud schemes. Now, it involves at least 4 women, again, his name being Sean Stephen Harris, but they knew him as a series of names, one of them being Eric Shun, another one Sean Martinez. We have here in the indictment Sean Moore. Now, these 4 women, how it began, it all started in 2019. He would meet them on some online dating apps. Bumble is mentioned heavily in this indictment, begin that romantic relationship with them, and then once he had earned their trust, then he would convince them to hand over their credit card information. And over time, he started to spend that money on things for himself, including shopping sprees, including DoorDash or other takeout, including some rideshare, just anything for himself, claiming that he would reimburse them all of this money, which he never ended up doing. Now, this indictment does not specify the total amount that was taken from these women, but a couple different amounts that are mentioned throughout are $15,000 from one, $4,000 from another. They kept telling him that they were maxing out their credit cards and asking for that reimbursement, which he promised from the government, and again, never did give back to them. Again, this scheme running since 2019. As you mentioned, those FBI agents tried to fill that warrant, serve that arrest warrant Friday morning, when he, of course, evaded them by jumping out the balcony of his 15th story apartment. But again, there are just 4 victims listed on here. We have reached out to the FBI in the last 30 minutes to ask if you believe yourself a victim or you have any other information you want to share. What's a number you can call or any email that you can send that information to? And as soon as we have that update back from them, we'll share it with all of you. Guys.
And Jess, you answered a question I wanted to ask you, is if the authorities believe that there could be more victims out there.
Yeah, so we'll ask them. We're hoping to find that out as well this morning, because they do have 4 mentioned here. So we'll have to see. But if you believe yourself one, we'll hopefully have that information for you soon.
All right, Jess Arnold reporting live on this latest news. Thank you.
That is some craziness. That is some craziness. So he had this indictment. They dropped the indictment after he died. That's the part that's crazy about it. But he did some fraud shit. You know what I'm saying? 4 different victims. He should have just went to jail for that. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I mean, that's the thing. People do stuff and then do all this crazy stuff to avoid apprehension, all the while of willingly doing stuff that'll get them sent to prison in the first place. Now, she didn't have a lot of information on these victims, but I do. I'm going to show this to you. Take a look at this. It says, the man who jumped to his death from the 15th floor of an apartment building to avoid arrest by the FBI last Friday had stolen from at least 4 women he met on a dating app called Bumble, according to the indictment against him. Court documents reveal the man who died was named Sean Stephen Harris, and he was facing 7 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of falsely impersonating a U.S. officer and employee. That's why I think he did it. That charge right there. According to an indictment, Harris started relationships under various names with 4 women he met on Bumble around 2019 and 2020. To all 4 of those women, he said he worked for various federal jobs for the FBI, CIA, and Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. In October 2019, he met the first woman, the first victim. After they started dating, he told her he needed help paying for overseas missions and told the government, he told her the government would reimburse her for everything. She started letting him buy things on her Capital One credit card and later made him an authorized user on her accounts, the indictment reads. 2 months in, the woman was asking him to stop. In one message, she told him, "Stop racking up money on my credit card, mister." And later, "I'm broke as Brokeback Mountain." But he didn't stop stealing from her for nearly 2 years. He promised her the government would reimburse her many times. At one point, Harris told her he was just waiting for appropriations from the National Security Act so that his perpetuity, what do you say? This is a hard word. Purported employer could send her money. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, he told her that her reimbursements were earmarked in the stimulus package days after the CARES Act was signed into law. In February 2021, Harris told her the government was going to buy her a corgi along with her reimbursements. So he's gonna buy her a dog. The government gonna buy her a dog and gonna buy her, give us her reimbursements. To help hide the scheme, Harris began to pose as his own assistant. As his assistant, he told her the government was going to pay off $86,000 of her student loans in August 2020. And in the same August, she messaged the fake assistant and said, "I told my sister we're moving, and she got me all paranoid that Sean's not who he says he is and stuff, since I can't tell any specific details." He used the fake assistant to quell her worries and suspicion of him. Eventually, in July 2021, The woman asked him why shopping at Bloomingdale's was part of his work mission. He responded, "It's a Russian reason. They're using clothing and other things as a front and OnlyFans for human trafficking and weapons sales. Through escorts and others," the court documents stated. In reality, Harris was buying OnlyFans subscriptions for himself and told another woman he was speaking with to go on a shopping spree at Bloomingdale's using the first woman's Capital One credit card. Meanwhile, as his relationship with the first woman was going on in February of 2020, Harris met another woman, a single mother of two. He told her he was working in undercover roles for the CIA, and in the same fashion he did with the first woman. When asked to use her credit card for work, she agreed sometime in May 2020. The second woman asked him in July when she would be reimbursed so she could pay for virtual homeschooling for her children. Harris said it was coming within the next few weeks. And she responded, "LOL, wow, the government is really dragging its feet." After a few months of this, the second woman had to dip into her retirement account to pay off the bills that Harris was racking up. In January 2021, she messaged who she thought was Harris's sister, begging for reimbursement. In the messages, she reveals that the charges were for takeout dinner, shopping sprees at Bloomingdale's, 7 pairs of sneakers. Harris pretended to be his own sister, responding, "Please stop with this." He did this with 2 other women in October 2020, claiming he worked for the DIA and the alphabet agencies. With the fourth woman, he also used the first woman's cards to buy things for her on occasion. The real FBI caught up with Harris last week when they tried to serve him a federal warrant around 6 a.m. Friday morning in the Alexander Apartments on King Street in Old Town Alexandria. But to avoid arrest, he went onto the balcony of the 15th floor and jumped. Authorities rushed out of the building to try to save him, but he died from his injuries. What's messing with that? This article that's written up here had bad punctuation. It was supposed to be commas in certain parts and periods in the other. They must have wrote this real fast to get it out. But anyway, that's the story of this dude. Now, there's no picture of this man. But I want you to just think about this. That first girl he met must have had buku loot for him to just start doing all this stuff. And she must have been really naive and trusted in him and having her going. But man, that's some crazy shit. Once he started that impersonation shit, it was done deal for him. That's why he ran and jumped out that window. What did you think about that? This guy fucking had an elaborate story. It reminded me of that, it's a movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger was a CIA agent and his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, didn't know he was. And like, she had caught on to him and he had to play a trick on her in the hotel room and all of that. I forgot that it was like an action movie. It was back in the day. But it reminded me of something like that. This guy made up a fictitious lifestyle to draw the funds of women that had money and couldn't really trace where the money was going and only had his word for it. Then he made up fictitious characters and was texting them all the while of it being him, and they talking, and it's craziness. I mean, people, I want you to think about this before I get out of here. This guy did all of this stuff, right? And he was so clever and all that stuff in gaming these people. He could have used that same ingenuity and stuff he had to make something of himself other than some type of scammer. Either way, he jumped out the window. It's crazy, but it's also justice, because them people will never get them funds back, and they'll never get their sense of security back neither. See, besides him doing this, it also made it more bad for these women to try to even trust somebody. So a good guy can come and land in their lap, and they might just ignore the fact that he's there because they've been crushed financially and emotionally by this guy. So fuck him. I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's a crazy story I wanted to share with you guys. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about that shit. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.